This is Malcolm341. In today's video, we're going to look at a script I created that snaps verts from one object to another using a tolerance. Snapping verts by hand between objects is time consuming, and this script lets you do it in one click, so let's check it out. Okay, so if you've purchased the full script pack, you will see the button right here. It's called vSnap, and you click that button to launch this little toolbox here. And so what you get is you get a snap distance, and that'll be in centimeters. And then you get this little field here, and you get a load, and you get a snap vert. So what you do is you load the mesh that you want to snap to. So in this case, I want to snap the edge of all these verts up to the edge of this guy here. So you click that guy that you want to snap to, click the load button, and then you'll see here it now displays the name of the object that the other thing that you have selected is going to snap to. So this will work on object mode, or it will work on selection. Selection is really handy so you don't accidentally snap all these other verts. So now all you do is select the verts that you want to snap to the other object, and then simply click the Snap Verts button. I click it, and nothing happens, and that's because my distance is too low. So I actually set this low on purpose so I could show you guys the distance. So you can up the distance to, I don't know, whatever. Let's try like 8 and see what happens. Click the button again, and boom, there you go. Snaps all the verts up. Doesn't weld them, doesn't combine the objects. It just snaps these verts from this object to the closest vert on the next object that you have loaded here. And this can be super handy in a lot of situations. To get a little bit better idea of how the tool works, I'm just going to delete this part. I don't need it anymore. And then I'm just going to select some faces here. And I'm just going to duplicate those faces out here. So I just have those as a separate object. And I'm just going to reset the tool back to default, which I think is, it's like 4 or whatever. So I'm going to show you a trick, actually, that's really cool that you can do if you haven't set the tolerance high enough and you just kind of want to jiggle your mesh into place or whatever. The way that I've done the undo in this tool is really neat. So if it's at 4, let's say, and it's not close enough and it's just not working, you can click there and see it's going to select everything and try to snap it. You don't actually have to select the verts. It works in object mode. You can just move it a little bit closer, and you can click the Snap Verts button again, or you can just press G on the keyboard to repeat last command. I'm just going to press G. And you can see there, it snaps it all in together because it was close enough. So an easy way to kind of work your way through it is you can just jiggle the verts until they get into the right spot. Press G, or undo, press Snap Verts, same thing. This can be really handy when you've got an irregular shape like this. So for example, all of these guys are really close. And so when I go to Snap Verts, see, those guys all snap up, but now these guys are like not snapping up. So you could just like move this a little bit with the mouse and just click the button again, and so you're going to start to see some of those snapping together. And then, for example, you can also just deselect that and then just move these a bit and just press G, and then move that guy in and just press G, and then just press G, just once they reach the tolerance. You can also try upping the tolerance, but sometimes that will create unwanted results where this vert might not snap to this guy, it might jump over to this guy. It all kind of depends on your situation. The tool is really flexible. Another cool feature that I built into the tool was the ability to snap with an infinite distance instead of using this and having to like up that to 50 or 100 or whatever, 150, just keep upping the value, blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing that, so I've got the value set to, what is it by default? I think it's 4. And I click snap and nothing happens. And then, you can move it a little bit closer and nothing happens. You can move it a bit closer and nothing happens. You can move it a bit closer and nothing happens. And then until finally you reach the minimum distance between the two. But if I have something far away or if I have something close and I don't care, maybe it's 1 vert or it's 2 that I know are going to land in the right spot on the other object. And I just want to say, just snap infinite. I've actually built a little tool in here, and if you turn this tick box off, instead of using 4, so when I click here, 4 is doing nothing. Instead of using 4, if I turn this off, that tick box being off means ignore this number and just go infinite. So now when I click it, it just snaps to the closest vert that it can find. And as you can see, because it's the closest vert it can find, in some situations, it folds back onto itself, which is not what you want. So that's when, moving it a bit closer and using a smaller tolerance, like 4, is going to be useful. Oh, it's actually really far away here. So let's go, let's go 20. I guess I'm really far away and I just didn't notice it. There we go. And then here's another good example of see where it folded onto itself. So what's cool is that you can, instead of having to redo all the snapping or whatever, you can just get these couple verts here that snapped into the wrong place and just kind of move them roughly into the right place. You just have to find the ones that are like overlapping or whatever. There we go. So now we can see that those guys are like that. And so because I have the vert selected and not these guys, I can just click the button again, or I can just press G. and it's going to go to the closest one. So even if you get a little bit of a screw up, see there it went back to the closest one. You just hit undo, move it a little bit that way, press the button again, and boom, it goes to where you want it. I'm just going to set this back to 4, which is the default. 4, there we go. So when you would want to use the infinite distance is probably just when you have like a single vert selected, or maybe something that, it's too far away or whatever, but you just want to kind of do it one at a time or something and select that one vert and snap it that way, right? Because then there's less chance for error, but you also don't have to fiddle with this number and move the thing around. It's going to find the closest vert, right? So here I can just go through these one at a time. And again, once I've pressed this, that becomes the last command in the buffer. And so if I press G on the keyboard, we'll repeat that command, which is the same as pressing this button until I do a different command. So you can see these are actually all going to the right spot with the infinite distance. So it looks like it's just lined up close enough for it to work. But I mean, this vert could be way back here, and I could still click it, and it would still find the closest one. And you can see as it got farther away, it found the wrong one. That's okay. You just drag it close to this guy and press G again, or press snap vert again, either way. Kind of whatever you want to do. Just going to delete a couple faces on the main object here. Basically, what I'm going to show here is just one more example of the load option. So whatever's loaded, the one thing is going to snap to the other. So currently we have this guy loaded, but if I click this one, which is called duplicated, and I click load, you'll see it'll update there. So now any vertices I select or any objects I select will snap to there using whatever the tolerance is here. So I'm just going to say, I don't know, let's set it to infinite, and I'm just going to grab this little edge here and convert that into vertices. And we'll see what we get. Snap verts. Boom. So it's going to try to snap it up there. And again, because it's infinite and there's too much inaccuracy there, that guy kind of went to the wrong place. So you can either clean that up by hand by just like grabbing these guys down here and just pressing G to rerun to get it to snap back. That's probably like the fastest way to do it, right? And snap that guy to there or whatever. Or you can move this thing closer to start off with and set the tolerance to be more accurate. Just going to create another new object here, and I'm going to load that guy, and then this will work on, I just wanted to show that it works on selection. If I select these verts, I've got it set to infinite, and I go snap verts. It's going to try to snap all those guys down to the closest vert it finds, but it will also work in object mode. So if you're in object mode and you click it, it's just going to take all those verts. It's also going to do a funny animation, which is cool, because it loops through each vert one at a time, so you end up seeing like a little animation as it goes. So where you might use this tool, for example, is maybe you've got some terrain here, and you've got another piece of terrain that you've modeled, but it was kind of a nightmare to like snap it all up as you were going or whatever, and now you just want to seam up the two. I've actually found I've had to do this quite a bit while working on levels and stuff. So load your first piece of terrain, and then select the verts that you want to snap up. In this case, I think I would need to set the distance to something like 50. Let's see. Yeah, I set it to like 50. And then just click the magic button, and boom, there you go. It's all snapped up, and it's all perfectly seamless. I've also run into situations like this where, let's say I'm modeling something up here, I'm doing some extrusions or whatever, I'm extruding some vases here, kind of modeling this, whatever, modeling some stuff down there like that, extruding that. And then I get to this point and I'm like, whatever, I want to just, can you please just like go and snap that up? I don't want to do the work to like have to go into a different tool or whatever. So again, just load the surface and just grab the verts that you want to get, which would be the border edge here, and just click snap verts. And there we go. And then from there, you could do whatever you want. You could combine the mesh and weld the verts together, or you can leave it how it is. Depends on what your model is and how it needs to function. Another thing I've used it for as well is sometimes you might have a cylindrical shape, and then the top of the cylindrical shape might be optimized for vert count. So the number of edges here, or the number of verts around the top ring, is actually less. Like I think this is 16-sided, and this is like 12-sided or something. And it can be kind of annoying to go through each one of these guys and like manually snap it up like one by one like this, and then to go in and add that extra vert and triangulate it there. So you can save a lot of time by just selecting this guy, loading it, selecting the verts on this guy. And in this case, probably the infinite distance would work best. So I'll just click that. And then in one click, see, you've got that all snapped up, and then you just need to worry about adding the extra vert there and there or whatever. So you can save some time in this situation as well. Another thing I've used this tool for, which actually saved me a ton of time, was I came across a bunch of models that had bad UV mapping on them. We had a bunch of assets created by another artist, and it was like a damaged version of the same texture. So basically, or sorry, the same model. So imagine like this is the model that we had, and then we had like whatever, like we had like 3 variations of it or whatever, with basically like each part was like moved kind of differently. So it was sharing all the same texture, but each damaged version was like slightly different. And there were a lot of these things. And I didn't want to go and manually like unwrap and fix all the UVs on this. It was like a lot of time consuming, tedious work that just wasn't really an option to do. And so what I thought of is I would rebuild one from scratch that was clean. It had the same subdivision, and I would UV map that nicely. And then I would use the snapping tool to actually just move that over into place and then snap it back to the shape that the artist had built. And so therefore preserving the nice UVs that I built, but then just snapping it to the different shapes. So I didn't have to like rebuild all their assets by hand or re-UV map all their assets by hand. This is kind of a simplified version of it. The real model was a lot more complex, so it made a bit more sense to do it this way. I think maybe another way that I could have done it was try to transfer the UVs over, but sometimes that's kind of sketch. So in this case, I just took my like good one. I'm just going to move it over here. So I just made a duplicate of that, and then I moved it kind of into place, tried to like line it up so the verts are as close as possible. So let's say like right there. And then I would select the one that had the broken UVs but had the correct geometry shape. I would load that as the model that we're going to snap to. And then I'd select the model that I want the verts to come from, so the clean model basically. And then I would up the tolerance to whatever I need. So I'm just going to change this to 2.0 and hit enter. And then I'm just going to click the button, see what we get. So click it, and boom, see it all snaps up, except for this one here, and that's just because it's too far out of the tolerance. So I'm just going to move that guy a little bit close to the original one, and I'll just click the button again, and boom, there we go. Now I'm going to switch back to textured mode and select my object and just pull these guys apart so you can see what happened. So you can see here's the original one that the artist made with all the broken UVs, and then here's my clean one, which I've now kind of snapped back into place so it shares the same UVs. And then we can go one more time here to this guy over here and try to line it up as best that we can. Sure, close enough. Load this guy in, select the other guy, snap it. We get most of it for free. Move this over, press G, move it 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 over, press G. Basically, that work across the number of assets that I had to do in such a short time, and it was like a rush because the game was almost done. That saved my life. I actually used this technique like quite a few times on the last game that I worked on, so it was pretty cool. If you've already purchased the full script pack or the modeling pack, this will be a free update, so you just need to download the same file again from your original email link to get the new stuff. If you haven't purchased the script yet, you can grab the script by itself in the modeling pack, or you can get it in the full script pack, so take your pick. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Without viewers like you, this channel would not exist. If you like this video and enjoy the channel, please support me by purchasing something from the online store. Each purchase goes towards creating more video content and keeps the channel ad-free. See you next time. Have a swell day.